Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to today's HDI webinar, Generative AI in ITSM, Hype or Reality, sponsored by Symphony AI and broadcast by Informa. I'm Roy Atkinson with HDI, and I'll be your moderator today. And we have just a few announcements before we begin. The webinar is designed to be interactive, so there's a dock of widgets at the bottom of your screen. It will allow you to learn about today's speakers, download resources, and participate in the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We'll only have some slides later in the event today, and they'll advance automatically. You may also download the content materials via the resource widget. Toward the end of the webinar, we'll ask you to provide feedback via a survey widget found at the bottom of your screen. So please take a minute to fill this out before leaving us today, because your feedback will provide us with valuable information on how we can improve future events. Lastly, if you're experiencing any technical problems, please click the Help widget found at the bottom of your screen, or type your issue in Q&A, and we'll be glad to offer one-on-one assistance. In this webinar, we're going to delve into the issues behind the hype of generative AI, discover how organizations are leveraging generative AI to automate repetitive tasks, enhance decision-making processes, and drive efficiencies in service delivery. Whether you're a skeptic or enthusiast, we'll try to provide you with valuable insights to help you navigate the evolving landscape of AI and ITSM. Joining us today is Raj Shukla, who's the Chief Technical Officer at Symphony AI. Welcome, Raj. And a little bit later, we're going to hear from Tim Laws, who's the Senior Director of Sales at Symphony AI Enterprise IT. If you want to learn more about the speakers and their experience, you can find their bios in the speaker bio window on your screen. And again, if you want to ask our speakers any questions, please use the Q&A window. Okay, let's get started with some questions. We're going to have a discussion now between Raj and myself. And we're going to get started with those right now. So let's get right to the chase, Raj, and let's just say it. Is generative AI in IT service management a hype, or is it reality?
Very good to be here, Roy. My answer is unequivocally a resounding yes. It's reality, not a hype. And I think for people to understand why we call something a hyper reality, I think AI in general comes with hype around it. We've been hearing AI since 1980s or so. AI will do this or that. But I think the generative AI kind of explosion that we've seen in the last few years is particularly interesting in the ITSM domain. Like if you think of ITSM, it's all around code and websites and deployments and managing systems and what is the basis of generative AI? It's around generative models, which we call large language models. And even though we call them large language models, guess what? They are very good at understanding and debugging and writing code and understanding websites and understanding APIs and understanding what parameters to pass to APIs. So even though we call it language models, they are actually really, really good at coding and anything that has to do with code that sits or gets deployed on the cloud or on-prem. So just with that as a foundation of what generative AI means and what large language models bring to the table, even if you forget all the hype, even if you forget that ChatGPT came and changed the world forever, the fact that you have a technology which knows how to code, understands APIs, understands systems and deployments, you would really want to make use of it in IT service management, right? So that is some of the reasons why everyone's very excited about it. But it's gone beyond the point of excitement. I think McKinsey estimates that generative AI will add at least a couple of trillion dollars in value annually going forward. I think there is a lot of research to show, Gartner and elsewhere, that uh, you know at least 60 to 80% of enterprises will have deployed generative AI in IT or ITSM related areas in the next 2 years. So uh, I think when you have start getting all the way going from foundations of why we think large language models are good at code, all the way to now these, uh, the world, the our consultants believing that that's true, but really the deployments going in practice now. We have actual deployments going on in the industry right now, which can prove that this is very much a reality. Now, how much you think it is a hype, you can imagine there's scales of hype, but I think we have a real opportunity to drive real good value and productivity with generative AI. And so that part is not a hype.
Right. And I know that you touch on some use cases where AI can be applied in ITSM. Did you want to talk about them a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So if you look at, uh, all the way from automating tasks to personalized support, what we call the kind of the true virtual agent scenario that we've been imagining for a while, to faster resolutions of tickets, to automatic resolutions of tickets in some cases. I think these are all scenarios that are very applicable in ITSM. uh, I would like to think of it in with the personas who are using these kinds of products. So there is obviously the ITSM personas, the IT analysts, the admins, the incident responders, etc. But there's also the end user, which is like the employee persona, and who is the one who creates a lot of these tickets. So all the way from an employee's looking for a question which is related to what they want, or they want to deploy something on a machine, or something's not working, all the way to uh, an incident happening and that resolution of that incident and the life cycle of that incident. uh, you know there is some place for generative AI based products and generative AI based models to play throughout those life cycles. If I would can go into a few details here, right? So if you take the employee as a persona, and you talk about employee self-service scenarios, then we'll be talking about our Symphony AI Copilot, but there are other copilots out there. You can see Microsoft releasing some copilots which are applicable to all employees out there, but specifically related to, I have an issue, my password is not working, or I need to know what my leave policy is. I need to collaborate with someone, right? All of this, you some or the other form, you rely on support from a support agent. But with copilots now, and these copilots are heading towards what we would call autopilots. As we go in that realm, there's tremendous opportunities there, because employees don't have to wait. These co-pilots or autopilots will not be on holiday. If I have that issue on a weekend and I need to resolve it, I can get it done. Now, if you go on the IT SM side, just streamline workflows. I think there is a phrase out there that uh, RPA was a hype, robotic process automation was a hype, but generative AI is a technology that makes it real. And that's, you can see all kinds of RPA companies finally realizing that, the core of process automation is built around APIs and API connections. And generative AI provides like a connective tissue that can take an incident and go work with different APIs and tools to resolve it end to end. So everything to do with streamlined workflows, knowledge efficiency, right? You think of there's a lot of knowledge sitting, either from past resolved cases to everything about assets and my organization, and how do you make meaningful use of this knowledge with using knowledge graphs, but then generative AI technologies being able to use these knowledge graphs, and how we make knowledge accessible, and putting it in good use cases. So just overall, I think there's a ton of use cases where this gets applied.
Mm-hmm. And I think you touched upon one that's always been near and dear to my heart. I've always thought that instead of users going to a portal and logging into a portal and having to search through a knowledge base, which may or may not be accurate, this generative AI can now bring the knowledge to them through multiple ways that they can get the knowledge brought to them, which seems to me to be a lot more efficient, certainly from them, from the user standpoint. So it seems to me that, as I look through those particular cases that you brought up, that there's a lot of business value to be had in streamlining and time savings and accuracy. So how can we go on and calculate that business value? Because we want to be able to show our business partners how we're bringing value to them. So how can we calculate that?
Absolutely. So whenever you think of business value, you think of metrics, right? So there are some obvious metrics everyone can think of, and you could put that challenge up and say, if these metrics move, then I'm seeing the value. If these metrics don't move, I'm not seeing the value. So there are some explicit metrics you can see. That you can, the number of tickets, the mean time to resolution of the tickets, the how much an employee had to wait before their ticket was resolved, etc. So there is some obvious metrics like that. And then there are some implicit metrics around productivity, which are somewhat hard to measure, right? So, I'll give you a simple scenario which all of us can relate with in our day-to-day lives. Anyone who's working in a complex system or in a set of enterprise systems where they need help from someone else, right? So I'm trying to resolve something and I need some information that's sitting behind a database somewhere else, and I need to usually I send an email or a message or Slack or whatever to this person, and then if they are busy, they will not respond, right? And so and then I have to wait a few hours, maybe a couple of days. This usually happens between all the way from IT analysts waiting on some database admins or database analysts, all the way to end users waiting on some system experts. And while you can measure a bit of that through the wait times, etc., but the ability for the user who's doing a task or research to get that answer immediately and carry on that creative thought process that they were on, right? It's very hard to assign a value to that creative thought process. When I'm in the zone and I have those 15 minutes and I can do that task in 15 minutes versus when you make me wait and I lose my thought and so on. So there is something to be said about human productivity, which is slightly hard to measure, but you feel it. But there are explicit business metrics around, as I said, number of tickets, mean time to resolution, wait times, etc., that you will see dropping a lot. And, other ones around site reliability metrics. And, so I think you could put a number on all these metrics, and hopefully because you created these metrics, you knew the value of them in terms of dollars that those metrics are driving for you. So there is a straightforward way, and there is some implicit ways which everyone can feel, and you don't kind of put a number on it. Um, I think what I would recommend, if you have those metrics, that's good for the organization. If you don't have it, or if you are figuring out how do I convince my boss or someone to realize the value, uh, you know, Gartner and a few other organizations have done a good job of putting a framework around it. I always remember this. Gartner has this thing called AI use case prism. So and there is one for IT service desk. On one hand, there is the axis of business value, and the other has axis of feasibility. And if you look at it, high business value in ITSM, things like virtual support agents, universal knowledge discovery, natural language-based case extraction, etc. And if you look at feasibility, uh, you know, uh, what has dramatically changed in the last 1.5 years with generative AI is that the feasibility axis has become, everything has become more feasible suddenly, right? So you always knew the scenarios that were valuable, but you were wondering, this chatbot is not really that virtual support agent that I wanted. But the modern co-pilots are much better than the chatbots we have out there. And suddenly you realize, oh, virtual support agents scenario is actually possible. So you could put a lens like that, and I just made one use case of it, which is Gartner has this AI use case prism of business value and feasibility. And but I think everyone has to put their own metrics lens to it. What do they have as an organization as the metrics? And if they created those, they would have translated that into some business value or dollar value.
Thank you. And from my perspective, it seems to me that since metrics are really a foundation for this, finding value and determining value and proving value, it's probably a good idea for organizations now to do kind of baselining, see where your metrics are now and then as you start bringing these AI enabled tools in, look at the differences between what you're getting from the new tools versus what you have now. And I think that being able to compare those will really show where the value is being generated.
Absolutely.
So this is, we're here in part certainly to talk about Symphony AI. And can you tell me about your company's vision going forward? Where does this go?
Yeah, absolutely. So Symphony AI is an enterprise AI company. We are here to bring the best of predictive and generative AI into what we'd call traditional industries. Right. So we all know this is something which is very near and dear to my heart as well. I spent many years at Microsoft before I came here, and one of the things I loved working in the enterprise AI world is, consumer AI is advancing very fast. Most of the AI advancements you'd see go to consumers and consumer scenarios very fast, and it almost feels like enterprises are left behind because it is more complex. Everything starts with messed up data and enterprise workflows, and it's just hard to do. And so we are on a mission to bring the best of predictive and generative AI to enterprises and to solve real use case in depth. And if those use case need 2 predictive models and 3 generative models to solve it end to end, then that's what we've built. We do that in several of the industries we are focused in, which is, I think Tim's going to talk to you, but I'll just mention it. We are big in retail, financial services, particular financial crime, industrial and manufacturing, media, and business IT or enterprise IT. There is a reason we call ourselves predictive and generative AI company. Part of it is we know technology-wise that what predictive AI models can do is still going to be very important in the world going forward. Generative AI models are not here to do optimizations and complex math, and you still need predictive AI for that. So if you think of a ITSM scenario, for example, and you think of a you know life cycle of an incident, there is a time to detect, and you could improve that detection itself if you had a predictive model sitting behind it, which can predict that something is going wrong before it really blows up, right? And that task a generative AI model cannot do. So at Symphony AI, we would have identified in the life cycle of an incident or a case in ITSM, everywhere where predictive AI gets applied, everywhere where generative AI can be used to streamline, to form the connective tissue through the life cycle, to report, to generate new knowledge articles, and just use all these models so that we present a product that works end to end for the persona that exists in that industry. And hopefully, if we do our job well, then the industries and the customers we sell will realize that they are not far from the consumer AI, which is running at a lightning pace, because we bring it very fast into the enterprise. You went on mute, Roy.
There we go. That's better.
Yeah.
You mentioned co-pilots, and
Yes.
you mentioned that you're going to be in that arena. So can we take a look at the co-pilot that Symphony AI is building?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll leave it to Tim to do an actual demo of the Copilot, but I can actually at least give you a quick background of what we build and how we build it. So Copilots are meant to be assistants for humans, and I think the terminology became famous when GitHub Copilot first came along, and then Microsoft started using it in other Copilots. Symphony AI has launched Copilots in the industries and sectors we are in, and we have a few very good Copilots in the enterprise IT space. These Copilots, as I said, are assistants. They take end-to-end user scenarios, and we apply predictive and generative AI. Generative AI forms the main connective tissue that takes in a user prompt or what you asked as a question, interprets it, understands what services or what APIs it'll have to call. And so, just to give you a quick technical flavor in it, we used what is known as agent-based workflows. So there is large language model-driven agents. These are sort of not your typical support agents. These are a terminology used in the world of generative AI for systems which use large language model as a brain to understand what's being asked. They know what tools they have available as APIs, and they know how to take steps to route them and execute on them. So it's based on a very modern agent-based architecture, and that's used to. So we built 3 copilots for 3 personas rather. We built the end user copilot, which helps end user, which are employees, go through self-serve scenarios with relevant articles or automating tasks. So you can do your most common scenarios like password reset, shared folder access, etc. The important thing to note here is this is not built as one-off scenarios. Like, we didn't build a system just for password reset or just for shared folder access. The whole Copilot is built with the notion of tools and APIs. So we first said, okay, what tools and APIs do we want to make available to employees? And said, there is this user authentication API and or a knowledge base API. But in order to understand whether a user should be given access to a knowledge base, we first have to figure out whether they have the rights to be given access. So there is a user rights API that gets configured in the middle. And then the Copilot has been trained with a large language model that knows that when someone asks for a question and I have to go fetch this answer from a knowledge API, I first have to go ask for their authentication. And if the authentication is not available, then what do we do? So the Copilot here knows that if it's not available, it can give you an option in going and asking your manager for access. And that's built in as another API. So what you realize is with these APIs available as sort of actions and which knowledge bases available as the knowledge you're asking, you can really serve far greater and very flexible set of scenarios than the existing set of chatbots and conversational agents can. So that's hopefully gives you a background. So we have an end user copilot, we have an analyst copilot, which is there for IT analysts, and so which help with resolving and managing issues faster. And we've also built a copilot, what we call IT leadership copilot, because we realize that in every industry, the managers and the leaders need a higher level view of what's going on in terms of operational excellence, some trend prediction. Do I need to get more resources in one area versus another area? So while the data and the knowledge is common, the layers of it accessible to different personas are different, and they are controlled through APIs and tools that our large language models understand.
Great, thank you. It's really, really good to get into a little bit into the details of how this Copilot is going to work. And maybe we want to see a little bit of how this all fits together. And so what we'll do is send this over to Tim. And Tim is the Director of Sales for Symphony AI. If you want to come in, Tim, and show us how this all works.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Roy. Thanks, Raj. Before we jump into the demo, I'm actually going to go through a couple more slides just to introduce who Symphony AI is to the wider audience and who I represent, which is the enterprise IT division. So here on the screen, you guys can see our vision and our mission statement there. And as Raj mentioned, we have multiple divisions within Symphony AI. We have our retail and consumer packaged goods, our financial services, industrial, and we have enterprise IT. So some of the divisions are vertical specific, as you can see, and then the enterprise IT is the horizontal solution that can work with any company within any vertical that's out there. Some of our investment highlights, we are a leader in generative and predictive AI, as Raj kind of dove into there. We know this is a fast growing market space. It's about a $76 billion market opportunity we have in front of us as well. We're an industry leader in rapid development for copilots, predictive models, and vertical applications. We have over $500 million revenue run rate with a 30% annual growth and profitability currently. And moving on here, we can go through some of the customers that we have within our different divisions here. So we have 30 of the 50 top grocery retailers, 25 of the 25 top consumer packaged good companies, and 33 of the top 100 financial institutions across the globe here. I'm sure some of you guys will recognize a lot of these logos that we have here on the screen as well. So we have a very diverse customer base. Now we'll get into the enterprise IT overview. So Symphony Enterprise IT, here's some of our awards and recognitions. Deeper dive into our customer base here as well. We are the Gartner Peer Insight Customer Choice for 5 years in a row. We are the ISG Provider Lens. We're on the top right corner there. We're in the leader quadrant as well. So we're very happy with our accolades, very happy with our customers. They're very satisfied, and it's awesome to see the Customer Choice Award come across our side. And a little bit about our tech stack here. Starting on the top, who this solution is really for. It's anyone within any division of an enterprise company. So obviously IT is typically where we land and expand, but human resources, facilities, finance, marketing, legal, especially with this co-pilot. And we know that all employees are customers at the end of the day to any organization that's out there. So the employees are expecting services to be delivered, issues to be resolved, things like that, regardless of the department that's supporting them. Our systems of engagement, we have an interactive web chat. We have integrations with Microsoft Teams, Slack, Google Chat, WhatsApp for Business. Our objective there is to meet those end users or those consumers of our product where they choose to work the most. I'm chatting all day in Teams, so I'll show you an example here of our Copilot in Teams. That would be my preferred method of interacting with our platform. But we want to have a wide base there so that each employee can kind of pick and choose their best route to get the support and service that they need. Our systems of intelligence, we have intent identification, classification, workload management, self-service, and automation. Raj kind of alluded to what I like to call tier 0 support. So having that co-pilot in place, they can make the request, the end user can make the request, and then we can have multiple scripts running in the back end that can actually fulfill that request from end to end, whether that be installing a software title, giving them access to a shared folder, automatically with 0 human interaction. And so that goes a long way with making organizations a lot more efficient. Our solution stack, we're obviously designed for IT service management, enterprise management. We have an asset management side of the house as well. There's that service automation that I touched on in our generative copilot. And our product key capabilities, we offer a multi-tenant architecture within the platform itself. We are a single tenant installation, but within the tool, each division or each company, if it's a multi-service provider situation, they can have their own setups or their own homes within the application themselves. We call that a tenant. We're a low-code, no-code application, very small learning curve when it comes to implementing our enterprise IT product. As I said before, we're designed for every division that's out there, every department within an organization. We have our asset management side of the house, so we offer discovery. We have an agent. We can integrate with multiple tools out there like Tanium, SCCM, et cetera, to pull that information into the system and allow a holistic view of the asset management along with the service management side of the house. And then we have our service automation and our Gen AI. And here's some proof points that we want to put in front of y'all. We have, these are pulled from our customer base. Actually, we have multiple customers that are really leveraging our service automation. So one of them has automated about 65% of all the service requests that are coming in, which means there's 0 human interaction when it comes to fulfilling these requests, whether it's getting a new laptop from a vendor, onboarding a new employee, offboarding an employee, et cetera. Our AI-powered service desk has also reduced the mean time to resolution, which Raj spoke about there as well. So our Copilot will prompt the analysts with the category, the subcategory, who it should be assigned to, the solution that is suggested as well. It can summarize the incident and have that sent out to the end user too. So a lot of really impactful metrics here. You can kind of dictate how much this would save your organization, but I just wanted to throw that out there. Now we'll get into the cool stuff and show you the Copilot. All right, so I'm going to go through a couple of different scenarios here. As Raj mentioned, it's designed for kind of 3 different personalities or 3 different personas. So you have the end user persona, which is going to be the vast majority of the base that we're supporting. Then we have the analyst persona, and then also the kind of IT leader persona. So I'm in our new platform. Our new platform is called Apex. This was released in December, and I will open up our Copilot here. So obviously we're logged into the service portal here, but I'll kind of pretend that I'm an end user and then actually I need VPN access. And we'll kind of walk through a real world situation for myself personally. I had to travel over to Europe a couple of weeks ago for a prospect visit. So we'll just kind of go through those steps there. So I'll ask it for VPN access. This will prompt me with a service catalog request. That I can then request that, and it'll prompt me with the questions that I need to answer there as well. And I'll prompt it with the dates that I need to travel. And this is going to go through and fulfill this request for me. And I'll fill in the rest of the details there. And then this should prompt me with my request and the information that I gathered. And while that's compiling the information, the next scenario that I'm going to present, there we go. Here's my record right there, is asking about travel per diem. So I had to travel for 4 days. And this is an example of kind of pulling information from a knowledge repository. It doesn't have to be within our system. This could be something that's in SharePoint or another knowledge repository. I'll ask that information there. And this is now searching the repository for any travel policies that we might have. So this is letting me know that I get $120 a day for food. If I need to stay for more than 15 days, then I need to get an exception. It's prompted me with another question if I want to know about preferred travel methods. And so I'm just having a conversation with the Copilot here. Nope, looks like we didn't have a resource there. All right, so we'll go on to a different scenario here. And I'll pretend that I am an IT leader. And let's say that I'm coming back from vacation and I want to know how many open tickets are left, and we'll kind of go from there. So if you're like me, you wake up in the morning when your alarm goes off, the first thing I do is grab my cell phone, look at my emails, look at my Teams messages. So this could be something that's obviously done from anywhere, from your mobile device, if the Copilot's installed on Microsoft Teams. And this is searching the database to see how many open tickets we have. And then once I get my results back, we also built an integration with Microsoft Outlook so I can actually schedule meetings directly from the Copilot as well. So here I gathered the information that we have. So in the past 2 weeks, we've got multiple tickets that are still open, and it broke it down by the status. And then it gave me a description of these. I'll ask if it notices any trends. And then I'll ask it to schedule a meeting with my colleague. So for me, a big selling point of this is the convenience. I can choose where I work. I don't have to log into multiple applications to pull this information. I don't have to go and run a report. I can just go into the communication channel that I choose, whether that's the portal, Teams, Slack, etc., and gather that information directly from here, and then take actions as well. and here's a real life situation. So Jason Yuri is a colleague of mine. Some of you might know him. So this is actually looking at Jason's calendar now to see when he's available. It's probably going to prompt me with a couple of choices here. Oh, let's see. Well, we'll show an example up here where it worked. So here I asked Siri, and there it scheduled the meeting for me here. So this actually would go on his calendar, pop on my calendar as well, be a Microsoft Teams meeting, and we can conduct our business there. All right, well, that was a quick demo of the Copilot there, Roy.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting stuff. And we do have some questions and a couple of comments here. So we'll just take a look at those. Not sure I understand this question, but I'm going to throw it to you, Tim or Raj, whoever would like to answer it. Javier asks, is tool voice enabled? Oh, I guess he's asking if it can talk. Does it understand speech and can it talk?
No, the short answer is no. It is not currently voice enabled, but text to speech to text is a capability in our roadmap. I think honestly, we've had prototypes with it, and we've tested it with end users, and their feedback has been, I cannot recall when I will use it if I'm sitting behind the desk. There are other copilots we have which are on the field. So a plant manager on the field using it, or a store manager in a retail store using it. There we have enabled it voice, because they are constantly running and on their phone, and they just don't have the time to type. So the capability exists, but our actual users haven't really been warmed up to it. But if you have scenarios where you think it's useful, we'd love to know.
Great, thank you. Patty says, the I need VPN access means that the organization, and I think this goes deeper than just this one question, the organization must have a fairly clean and updated permissions model. So in other words, the back-end information has to be there for this to properly work, and there has to be some preparation and some maintenance around that. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say that's correct. It's kind of the same thing with a knowledge-based articles, a repository. The information is only as good as the customer keeps it. So we don't want to be offering, old knowledge-based articles that aren't relevant anymore. It's the same thing with roles and permissions. We need to make sure if the goal is to integrate this with as many platforms in any customer's tech stack, then obviously we need to make sure the roles and permissions are set up there.
Yes, and I would add that goes, so yes, you need permissions, or rather role-based access available as APIs, whether we have integrations built into, Microsoft, most typical APIs that you'd have. We actually consider this a feature. So all our data APIs, all our knowledge base, everything is role-based access controlled, which enterprises have a way to configure. And if they don't have a good permissions model sitting, as a part of the rollout, we'll build it. Because, in the enterprise scenario versus kind of typical consumer scenario, you don't want people accessing things they don't have permissions to. And you want to build a very natural layer of getting that permission if they don't have to. So our co-pilots will do that step of saying, you don't have permission, should I get it for you? And we'll do that step to do that.
Great, thank you. A question here is, are we able to have the chatbot show drop downs, etc. And I've seen it where there's multiple choices in the chatbot box, and you just select one. Does this have that capability rather than having to type everything? Is the question.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, this was designed just to be more conversational. So it asks you the questions, and you can just kind of have a free flowing, paragraph or something like that to answer that too. But we have multiple options when it comes to fulfilling those service requests.
Yeah, and I would add very shortly, you will see in like Teams integration and all, we are utilizing the forms and other capabilities that Teams provides by default. So that's what you will use to sometimes do the simple tasks than asking.
Yep, and this can generate graphs in real time too as well. So that was something I didn't go through, but you could ask it about the ticket status for a certain period of time and have that create a graph or report for you on the fly too.
Cool. Here's an interesting question. Is the schedule a meeting a Symphony AI capability or a Microsoft capability? And I suspect the answer is yes. It's both, right?
Yeah, correct. So obviously we're leveraging our APIs there to pull the information and to check for, in that situation, it was Jason's availability. And then it would suggest times. It can even look into Outlook, and if Jason has his working hour set up, let's say it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., it'll let you know that Jason's schedule is for Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and he has availability in these windows. Would you like me to schedule a meeting? You can say yes, and then you can even put in the subject and the description of the meeting and have that automatically sent through.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions here about ITSM platforms. And the questions revolve around, well, does this integrate with any other ITSM platforms? Is it just part of Symphony's platform? Which platforms are accessible to this?
So we're going to have this sit on any platform that's out there. So ServiceNow is one that we're clearly focusing on right now. We built it within our own platform initially. That was the thought process that we have, but we want this to be a co-pilot that can sit on any of the platforms that are out there.
Great, thank you so much. Patty asks, what do you think is happening with regards to enterprise service management as opposed to IT service management? Is there more of a merge there? How are they addressing that? Meaning, how are you addressing that? So I would suspect that there's multiple viewpoints that you can approach this from, and probably has to do with the internal service management processes that are going on in the organization. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Especially with our new Apex platform, we kind of realized that a lot of the divisions were leveraging the ITSM tool that IT brought on board. And there was a lot of functionality that they didn't really need. They needed a platform that could be simplified. We're working on some really cool use cases right now that are completely out of the ITSM realm. So one of them, I won't name any names, but it's a security workflow for a major grocery store chain here in the United States, completely outside of IT. But our platform is flexible enough that we can automate a workflow process, create them a police report that can automatically be sent to their local police department. They might not be concerned about SLAs or OLAs, things like that. So we can remove those out of the platform as well. So I think that's kind of where we're shifting when it comes to enterprise service management. It's not just all about IT and having the other departments use an IT tool. It's about focusing on how each department or division within an organization can best serve their end users. And that will mean different things for different divisions.
And I would add to it to say, in general, there is two parts of these generative AI-based applications or Copilot-like applications. One is access to the knowledge sitting behind as knowledge articles or APIs. And the other is the actions you do with it. So very clearly, you can see out there, not just with Symphony AI, but out there in the industry, that access to knowledge is being centralized as you could have role-based permissions kind of things, but everybody should have access to it. Like that's breaking that silo of only this admin or this person had access to it, when an employee is really the one who needed that information. So we are firmly in the middle of that trend and pattern, and we embrace it. The actions that you do once you get that knowledge or understand more is somewhat persona specific. So you don't want to give an employees the same actions APIs that a ITSM admin has access to, and that's where you would start limiting it. But the first part of making the knowledge accessible to everyone and being able to pull different sources of knowledge to answer a question, very much a trend to make it accessible across roles and personas.
Great, thank you. A person says, a big challenge I have seen when testing AI-based articles, and I'm guessing knowledge articles, is that a lot of them may be challenging for employees to go through, as they may be inaccurate or steps may not be able to be followed if machine policy is locked. So that goes back to, I think, I asked earlier about what has to happen behind the scenes, making sure that the right information is accessible, because AI is not going to correct your bad knowledge article, right? It can help you create articles and summarize things, but it's not going to correct mistakes. True?
Yeah, the way that we have ours designed. Sorry, Raj, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead, Tim. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the way that we have ours designed is it's from a security perspective, it's single tenant along with our platform infrastructure as well. So each customer has their own implementation of the Copilot. So it's not going out there and grabbing information or sharing information with third-party vendors or on the World Wide Web there as well. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Roy. The information, it could help keep articles up to date, and you can have a process internally where you might want to refresh articles on a certain basis, and that's where our workflow designer can come in to automate some of those processes and get the notifications out to the right people.
I would say I would answer it in a slightly different way when it comes to knowledge articles or unstructured text in general, right? So as Roy was saying, it's if you put in garbage, you'll answer garbage. But what you could do is you could now, while putting in what knowledge articles should I make accessible to be used, you can filter it, and you can create representations or summaries of it, which are filtered to only the articles that are useful. So some people call it the ELT process for Gen AI. Whatever we call it, the time in which a knowledge article needs to be converted into a format that Gen AI operates on. Usually that's called embeddings. As you convert an article into an embedding, at that time, you can put filters that say, this is a good article versus this is a bad article, and use it to return better good articles and fewer bad articles.
Great, thank you. Interesting. Tim, I think when you started out, you mentioned, different logos that you showed, and you said that the financial sector is one of your strong areas. And Javier is curious to know how this is used in the financial sector, primarily wealth management.
So I'm not an expert on our fintech departments. I'll let one of the other folks answer those questions there. But we have on our enterprise IT platform, we have multiple financial industry customers as well. And a lot of them are using them for our platform for audit purposes. We have some customers that are leveraging our tool for loan automations as well, for house loans and car loans. Because we offer a very, very robust workflow module, and you can tie a workflow to basically any object in the system. It can be, of course, a service request or a change. It can be a type of incident. It could be a user in the system when they submit an incident. And then that can make real-time API calls as well on demand. So it's a very powerful platform, and like I kind of mentioned before, our Apex platform is incredibly flexible. So most of the use cases, any problem that an organization is trying to solve, and they want to keep record of that, is something that Apex can certainly help with.
Great, and I think one of the things that organizations are currently nervous about is leakage out into training material, but I think you addressed that, talking about the way that the tenants are
Yep.
set up so that the information that's inside that tenancy is private and remains there, correct?
That's 100% correct. Yep. And we can hide
Okay.
fields. You can have field validation based on roles and permissions. We can encrypt data fields as well. Obviously, our infrastructure is secure and compliant too.
Great. Good to know. Thank you. Some great questions today. Thank you very much. And we'll start to wind down. It's about all the time we have for questions today. It's been a pleasure to be here. Don't go away yet. Thank you to Raj and to Tim, and HDI appreciates your time and expertise. Thank you to Symphony AI for sponsoring, as well as everyone in the audience. We appreciate your attention, your participation, and your great comments and questions today. Within the next 24 hours, you'll receive a personalized follow-up email with details and a link to the presentation on demand. Please feel free to invite your colleagues and peers who may not have been available to listen to the event today. And we hope to see you again. This webinar is copyright 2024 by Informa. The presentation materials are owned by or copyright by HCI and Symphony AI. And the individual speakers are solely responsible for their content and opinions. On behalf of our guests, our sponsor, Symphony AI, I'm Roy Atkinson. Thank you for your time and have a great day.